At this time, I'd like to call the special call meeting to order on Monday, May 22nd, 2023, and welcome all of you that are here. Could you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. We invite you to this meeting today to help us understand, review, and do what's best for all the citizens of Nashville and Nash County. In your precious name, amen. Amen. At this time, we're here to hear from Wayne Outlaw, so why don't you come up and talk with us, and then we'll question you. Is that okay?
That's right. That's right. I've got a couple of handouts that I could ask the chairman of the Nash County Board to approach and present those to you. The information that I'll be going over. Well, I want to thank you for giving myself and Chairman Davis the opportunity to speak with you a few minutes this morning about a subject that has got a lot of visibility lately. It's not a new subject. It's a subject that's been around since May of last year, actually, about a year now. This process has been going on. I'm here today not to dispute anything that anyone has said or anything that you have heard or may have heard or anything that you have read in the paper. I'm here just simply to provide a factual timeline of events since May of last year to this current date on this particular issue. After I go through this timeline, Chairman Davis and I will address any questions that you might have. And I think after you see the information that I'm presenting, I think you'll agree with us that this is certainly not a power play by Nash County, and it is certainly not something that has been done in the dark. With that said, any questions before I start? Thank you. I'm going to give you a little background before I go into the timeline, because it could tend to be a little bit confusing. It's not confusing to me because I've been with it since day one. And I want to tell you, I'm here simply to represent the people that elected me to represent them. And in this situation, they have had no voice at all. They have been to meetings, they have spoke, presented information, but they've had no voice in this matter, and I think you'll see that when we go through this. This request was first discussed with Nash County in May of 2022. It was brought to the planning department. The planning department director made me aware of it, as they typically do with any matter of annexation or rezoning that affects the district that we represent. I subsequently had a discussion with the requester, and since that time, I've heard no more from the requester. Without any notification or communication, period, with the county or county residents adjacent to or in the community affected by this annexation, it appeared on the Rocky Mount City Council agenda for August the 15th. The purpose for that agenda item was to acknowledge receipt and investigate sufficiency of the petition. Again, no notification to the county or the residents, since there was no public hearing required. The first date for the Rocky Mount Council to consider this matter was on the agenda for November the 28th. A public hearing was planned, signs had been placed on the property, and letters were mailed. Now, I've got 200 feet here, but it may actually be 250 feet. In the county, I know it's 600 feet, so it's less than half of what it would be if it had been a county matter. That first public hearing was not actually held on November 28th, but was delayed to December the 12th. So with that background, I'm going to take you back to May and kind of walk you through the chain of events. May through August of 2022, facts and planned property uses as initially presented. And keep in mind that for a matter involving annexation and subsequent rezoning, then the planned uses that one may have for the property may not apply to subsequent owners because all uses would apply. So I may want to do A from that list of uses, but you can use all uses once it's rezoned. That was summarized, the facts and the property uses were all summarized in a community letter that was subsequently sent to the Rocky Mount City Council. It was actually presented to the Rocky Mount City Council. It was presented to the Nash County Board of Commissioners. It was presented to the interim city manager, the attorney. It was presented to the Nash County attorney, the county manager, and it was also presented to Senator Lisa Barnes and Representative Alan Chester. Since this May through August time period, when the requester made this verbal request to Nash County, there was never a formal application for rezoning submitted to us. But you've got attached a letter that was sent out, and it shows all the uses, the initial uses that the requester had wanted to do with this property. But since that time, until he went to the Rocky Mount Council and petitioned for annexation May through August, there has been no contact with the county. To my knowledge, no contact with me, and to this date, August to this date, to my knowledge, there's no contact been made with the county, and there's certainly been no contact made with me. The contact that was made with me was a discussion, how do you feel about this, basically, and my response was, I do not feel like it would probably, from my perspective, be something that I could support, but I'm one of 7, and if it comes before our board, then our board would have to make that decision. In August of 2022, the Rocky Mount Council agenda included a request for satellite annexation of the properties. 66 acres total approximately, with approximately 7 acres owned by the requester, and then the remaining approximately 59 acres, which are immediately adjacent to the property, still owned by the church. The properties are currently zoned R30. They have always been zoned R30 residential since the initial land development plan in Nash County in 2006. I don't know if you're familiar with this area, but it is completely a residential area. August to December. Now this is where we're going to get into the communication and by dark and all those things that you may have heard. August to December, several contacts were made with the Rocky Mount mayor and some council members, some Rocky Mount council members, by myself and Nash County Chairman Robbie Davis to discuss this matter. We advised it was inconsistent and incompatible with the Nash County Land Development Plan and most likely would be considered spot zoning. That has always been communicated in our discussions or contact with city officials. On December the 9th, there was a meeting, face-to-face meeting with the Rocky Mount mayor And some council members, myself, Nash County Chairman Robbie Davis, and others, once again, we requested denial of annexation and the probable subsequent rezoning based on its inconsistency and incompatibility with the Nash County Land Development Plan. And this is a key point. It was made very clear, that Nash County would have no choice but to seek other recourse without denial of this request. Very clear. On December the 12th, page 2, this is about still 2022, there was a the first Rocky Mount City Council meeting was held where this matter was considered, the matter of annexation. There were 50 plus community residents opposing the matter in attendance. The final speakers provided copies of the November 18th letter with the petitions attached, which included 130 community signatures. Comments from all other community speakers at this meeting were also provided to the council. I do not have that in your package today, but I can provide it if you would like to have it. It listed many points, additional points as to why this is not a good thing to do. All of these speakers requested denial based on many factors, again, including the incompatibility and inconsistency with the Nash County Land Development Plan and probable spot zoning. On December the 29th, 2022, there was a meeting with Senator Lisa Barnes and Representative Alan Chesser, myself, and Nash County Chairman Robbie Davis, where we requested any assistance that they could provide from the North Carolina legislature to address issues with satellite annexation, which would give counties some voice in these type matters. And I want to just interrupt my script at this point to just make an off-script comment. I know Senator Lisa Barnes. I've been knowing her for a number of years since she served on the Nash County Board. She's a person of high integrity. She's a very intelligent person, and her first concern is always the people. We asked her to look at this. She looked at it, and you know what came out of that. The next, all right, I'm still on December 29th, where we requested the assistance. On March the 16th, we had a legislative dinner where we bring in our local legislators and we list those items that are concerned to the county. There was a listing provided, it's in your package, the top 5 issues. Tops on that list was satellite annexation. There's never been any disagreement by any Nash County commissioner with that list of legislative issues. On December the 12th of last year, when that was handed out to the Rocky Mount City Council to the current date, there have been numerous meetings to address annexation, and I might add that unless I'm sadly mistaken, that property has already been annexed, and the matter before the City Council now is rezoning. But in all those meetings, which have been many, the county residents have been in attendance, 50 plus. They have always been respectful. They've never, as some matters go, you know, people stand before you and they speak from emotion. They spoke respectfully and they provided information that I feel like was information that should be considered by the Rocky Mount City Council. To this date, there has never been one comment made back to those citizens by any member of the Rocky Mount City Council, including the mayor. Now there's, in thinking about that this morning, there is one exception to that. When you live out in the county, then things are a little bit different than living in the city. We have farming, we have hunting, we have fishing, and one Rocky Mount council member did take exception to the fact that we have hunting, and so you've got a satellite location of 70 acres, which is roughly equivalent to the size of Gold Rock, that you're going to have be surrounded by wooded areas, residential areas, county people that are accustomed to hunting. And I think that council member implied that he considered that to be a threat to the requester and the people that wanted to make this change. There's never been any intent to be disrespectful or threaten the city. Subsequent to all of this action and the legislative session with our legislators on March the 16th, Senate Bill 169, which was initiated, I believe, in February for Davidson County, Senator Barnes tacked on Nash County, and I'm sure you've looked at that bill, but just to reiterate what that bill says, that bill has nothing to do with contiguous annexation. Nothing to do with contiguous annexation. Matter of fact, the only statement in that bill, to my recollection, dealing with contiguous annexation is it a courtesy to let the county know that you're going to be considering annexation? Was it a courtesy back to the county in August to let us have some courtesy in notifying us that they were considering annexation? It does not deal with contiguous annexation. It simply states that for satellite annexation, the county is requesting that we have input into that matter. And I don't know if you know our board. I don't know that our board will always stay the way it is now, but I can tell you for the 14 plus years that I've been on that board, and Ms. Hobbs is certainly familiar with that board, that's a very deliberate board in matters of rezoning. When people come to us in public hearing and they bring matters of rezoning, there is back and forth, there's discussion, and it's not a done deal when we put it on the agenda and bring it before the public. It's a done deal after the public speaks to us in public hearing and we consider the comments that they have made to us. I'm going to give you one example of that. Recently, we had a business that wanted to locate in the Westmount community, and I was totally supportive of that business. And it was down at the intersection of Westmount Drive and Halifax, which is designated as a commercial area. There was a lady that spoke before us, and she brought to our attention the fact that you've got chemicals and other bodily fluids from the process of dealing with a person that is deceased that would be placed directly into the sewer system, which could then end up in the soil. To me, I thought that's probably not a good thing to do, to just run it straight off into the soil. So we tabled the matter, we brought it back, we looked at options, and one of the options was you could do it, but you've got to have a separate collection system, and you've got to haul it away. You cannot just dump it into the soil. So that was pretty much an approved item until that fact was brought before us. The point I'm trying to make is that when the people speak that elect you, you listen to those people. They know more about their community than we know about. So I would ask you to consider that in my comments. Do you have any questions on the timeline that I've presented? It's pretty clear. It started in May of last year. It goes to current. There have been numerous meetings, many people involved, a lot of people signed petitions, very little, virtually zero response from the Rocky Mount City Council to consider this matter. It's like it's a done deal from day one, and We just got to go through a process. And it probably is a done deal with this one. But I ask you, if the roles were reversed, and they can't be, but if the roles could be reversed, and the county could just come into your city, your town, and take a section of land and just do with it as they wanted to do with it, what would your feelings be on that? I don't think you would be very receptive to that. If you look at some of the uses for this property, again, setting in a totally residential area, you're talking about a wedding venue, a restaurant, all of the things on the list that I gave you could be done under the umbrella of a church. The only things that couldn't be done, we specified that back to the requester, you would need to rezone to do certain matters. So look, I go to Inglewood Baptist, and we have ball fields. We have a lot of cooking at the property. We do a lot of things there for the people, but it's not a business. It is always a church function. It's a church-related function. This is turning a church into a business, a revenue-generating business. And we just don't feel like that's appropriate, and therefore we oppose it. Do you have any questions or comments for me before I ask the chairman to come up and provide you some additional facts and maybe talk a little bit about what may be next with Senate Bill 169? I'll be glad to try to answer those questions.
Do any of you have any questions, Council?
I do have a question, but I respectfully would like to hear Mr. Davis's comments first.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Y'all know me well enough to know that I generally operate about 30,000 feet off the ground. And Commissioner Outlaw helps me quite a bit as the vice chair because he operates at a much lower level, keep the facts straight and things of that nature. But I think the real reason we're here this morning is it is important to me particular as well as our whole board, for this board to understand that this whole process has nothing to do with the town of Nashville whatsoever. Are the consequences as originally submitted? Yes, it would have been consequences. We're just trying to look out for the people in the Westmount community. That is Wayne's district, quite frankly, in full disclosure. That is where I grew up at, right smack down in the middle of Westmount, and still have a lot of friends there. But it doesn't matter to any commissioner, and certainly not me as chair. I have to represent the whole county. But what we want to do is let you know, as I stated, it had nothing to do with Nashville. It really had nothing to do with any other small town or any town or any other city. And I guess maybe Rocky Mountain may be the only one that's considered a city, and it was an issue that was up there. We tried our best to get it corrected in other ways, and quite frankly, we just didn't get any assistance in doing that. Senator Barnes took our legislative goals, as Wayne has pointed out, and the first one on that list, as you see, had something to do with this particular city. We didn't give them any direction on what kind of help we wanted or how we could get help. We kind of left it up to them. The first time that I heard about this particular bill was the same time that it hit the paper. I knew about it before I read it in the paper, in full disclosure, because I heard little comments about it, but therefore I did go and research it a little bit. I don't know if any of you know how hectic it gets in General Assembly during this period of time. I have never been there, quite frankly, because I've always worked full time, and I didn't think I could keep up being there. But it gets extremely hectic. They make some moves sometimes that maybe not have been fully vetted. In this case, Senator Barnes saw a local bill, and a local bill is important because crossover time has already passed. And crossover time means if it's not a local bill or a statewide bill, you've got a certain period of time that you've got to submit it to get it started. That time has passed for us in the Senate. A local bill is different from that, and you can submit local bills at a later date than that. And a local bill only affects one entity. This local bill in Davidson County, and you can tack another county onto a bill. She saw that opportunity and chose to put it on there, which is what she did. It's a smart move, I think. But at the same time, she knew very well that it had to have a lot of cleaning up and a lot of things done to it for it to apply to our situation. Since that time, she has been working on that and talking with Nash County to help actually hone in on what it was we were really after. I will tell you this past Friday at lunch, I did meet with Representative Chester, Senator Barnes, as well as Mayor Sandy Robinson of Rocky Mount for quite a while in his office to see if we could find that common ground to fix what it was that we felt seriously needed to be fixed. It's just not right for any town or city to be able to jump out in a rural area or any other area that's not contiguous to the city limits, annex an area and then do something that is completely opposite of what that county's land development code calls for, which is what we have here. If it had been contiguous, we wouldn't have any say about it. Now, I do want to say this bill is, and I told Commissioner Outlaw and Senator Barnes this first time I read it, the amendments that she made to the bill does direct it to satellite only. The original bill did include up in Davidson County contiguous annexation as well. Certainly that's not what we're after. But the amendment itself would take care of that, but it was done in such a way that, Katie, you would probably understand it as being the attorney, but an average person, including myself, the first 10 times I read it, didn't quite get what it was doing. I had to lay both bills down and read them at the same time to figure it out. That's the way they operate sometimes, these bill writers. But at the end of the day, it is clear with the amendments that it only includes satellite. Of course, some of the elected officials in Rocky Mount took exception to it, and had I been an elected official, I would have too. But at the same time, I think they were fully aware of something had to be done, and it was very published that it was on our legislative agenda. It had been published in, I know, one or two, actually both, two of the local newspapers that had been published what all this was. But that's where we're at today. I do have another meeting with Mayor Robertson tomorrow afternoon at Senator Barnes and Chester's request to see if we can find that commonality that we can agree on. Now, actually, that rezoning hearing is tonight, or actually this afternoon on the city council meeting. It may be a new issue after 4 o'clock today if they go ahead and rezone the property. I'm not sure what would happen there. We have looked at several ways. It's been very important to Senator Barnes, as well as Representative Chester, as well as myself, and I think all commissioners, that we do something to make sure it doesn't affect our smaller towns at all. Because there's been no violation, there's been no working problems. I'm quite frankly very proud of how the town of Nashville and Nash County work together now. We work very hard to make that a compatible partnership, and I think we're doing a good job of that. This concerned me greatly when I saw it because I knew it upset y'all probably, and I'll be told me that. I know it upset the town of Spring Oak because just 4 or 5 days prior to that, I had a big meeting with them along the lines of a sewer situation that we got going on in southern part of the county, and they didn't like it at all. I will be spending time this week helping them understand what we really need. One possibility is to put in the bill, and of course this is just a possibility because I have a genuine interest, as well as the 2 elected officials in the House and the Senate, to not alienate our small towns. We don't want to alienate anyone, But at the same time, we've got a group of citizens that we have to look after. One suggestion is that I put on the table is to put a population minimum in the bill, which would take care of everything, quite frankly. And I hope that's where we end up. I won't tell you that's where we're going to end up, but that is a possibility to put it to some number, maybe 40,000 population. I don't know what that number would be, but that is one way to relieve y'all's concern. And so where to be that way, or where to be something else, or where it will completely go away, and we'll stay where we are, and our people will just be born. I'm not sure yet. But today, it was very important to Commissioner Outlaw for Nashville to understand that you really are not the subject of this bill. You just unfortunately pulled into the bill as it was originally written. And with that said, I'm gonna quit rambling and give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have with Commissioner for Commissioner Outlaw or myself either one.
You want to ask your
Mr. Davis,
Yes, sir.
you alluded to the partnership that the county has with Nashville, and I do think we've had a good relationship with them. And Mr. Outlaw's statement, he mentioned that this was not a secretive thing that was done. And in item 5 on page 2, he said that many community speakers were present to speak for or against this project. Well, many communities, I think Nashville is one of those communities. And the other day, when I learned of this, yes, and I'm not speaking for the council, I'm speaking for myself, it did upset me that this is going on since back in whatever the date was when we started, back in August of 2022. And we were never notified. So as the bill was presented, what we got initially, what I got last week, I need you to tell me now what has been cleaned up in this bill to protect Nashville and other small communities. Because initially, it did affect us.
It did.
But what has been cleaned up now to make us feel more comfortable with this bill? That's my question to you and to Mr. Outlaw.
I'll go ahead.
if I could just make a comment before he addresses that. I think, Ms. Taylor, it would be normal practice, this community that's involved, I'm referring to the Westmount community, I'm not referring to the community at large. So the 50+ residents are from that community, they're in direct relationship to that property, and they're the people that are most affected by this situation. And that's a good distance away from the town of Nashville.
I think the whole timeline is strictly based on the Westmount community, not the county as a whole. Because it affects the county as a whole and the other small towns just within the last week or 10 days, ever how long it's been, when this particular bill amendment was submitted by Judge Barnes. Now, to be direct, I'm gonna have to answer your question. It's a work in progress. The bill is sitting on hold right this minute, and it won't move again until, of course, it passes one committee in the Senate. It's got several more committees to go through, and then it has to go to the House. That's the way it operates there. Over the next, ever how long it is, the language will be worked on, and that's why we're meeting so much, to try to find those things that give y'all a comfort level. And all I can do is stand here and tell you, of course, at the end of the day, they can pass anything they want to. They don't have to listen to Nash County. We all know that. But it is my intent as the spokesman for Nash County that I wouldn't agree or sign off on this bill. Sometimes they ask the commissioners to give a resolution, sometimes they don't. If they ask for a resolution, I wouldn't be able to support it until such time as it protected all the small towns in Nash County. That's all I can say to you. It is a work in progress, and that's where we are here today. But it had gained such a flare so quick, Commissioner Outlaw, as well as myself, felt like we needed to get the facts out there and understand
once this bill is cleaned up, the satellite annexation part, will the town be privy to that cleanup edition before any vote is carried on, or will we have to wait and get it in the newspaper like we did on this?
I will tell you, I will do everything I can, and I'll let Senator Barnes know today that request was made and should be done. The newspapers move very fast sometimes, so I can't promise you that, but I'll do everything I can, and I know Senator Barnes will as well as it relates to the House, to the Senate. That's what we can do. But, you know, every committee meeting up there are certain entities that sit there and watch those. In this particular one, I think Rocky Mountain was notified by your own legal municipality. They have people watching everything going on. So if something happens that affects any town, they pick the phone and call, which is what they should do. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But I will let Senator Morris know that request is made, and it's certainly a very valid request.
What is your intent, or what are you hoping that the rewrite will be as it applies to satellite annexation? What are you looking for?
I can't, it's so complex. I don't have that precise answer this morning, but what we're looking for is to be able to have some type of notification and involvement in a satellite annexation that moves into a county area that would change our land development code significantly without us knowing. We need some kind of notification and involvement in doing that so we can protect those people, whatever it is. And you'll notice the bill itself in Davidson County actually excluded, I'm not sure if it was Davidson County or was the amendment Senator Barnes made, it excluded all residential rezones anyway. It didn't include that at all. It would be something that would be either commercial or industrial that may affect an existing residential neighborhood. It needs some work. I'll be the very first to admit that.
Mr. Davis, what is the timeline of the legislature now as far as, is there gonna be a date when the bill, after having been rewritten, will again go through the committee process, or how does that work?
It hasn't been established yet. All of that is a work in progress on a day-to-day basis. We have another bill up there concerning our school system that has been worked on for about 3 months now. It has passed all of the committees that's going to hear it in the Senate, and the full Senate will be hearing it shortly. But then it has to start all over again in the House. It's a long process, and as you know, if you've watched them in the past, they like to go home by July 4th. They never make it July 4th, but at some point it's going to get a very rapid pace, and they do things sometimes. Like when I was chair of the Building Code Council for North Carolina for those years, we would get building code changes that just needed a tremendous amount of work, but it was a past bill that we had to deal with. So sometimes you have to clean up stuff out that's already a reality. Other questions?
Any questions?
Mine's more comments. I appreciate this timeline. I appreciate the background, and hearing what everyone is saying is a very reasonable request, and it's a very a serious issue, I think, of having no say with the county, with 50+ people opposing this and having a council who is deaf to that. So I understand, but the words that have been said were so that the county has a say, so that the county can weigh in, and so that the county has notification and involvement. And those, again, are all reasonable things. What was presented is the county having the sole say and having the sole decision authority. And so those are my concerns, that the county is the sole decider and that there's no appeal process, there's no second look. Once the decision is made, it's done for 3 years. And so that comes with both the annexation and with the rezone. And there's no timeline with the rezone. So if we do get the annexation approval pursuant to this, we now have this as part of our town for 20 years. If we want to rezone it, we still have to come back to the county for permission for that. So there was no timelines for how long those things last. That was another concern. Then with the exclusion of the residential, the single family, or the multifamily, It was a little vague, and so you could say that it was only one house or one multifamily instead of a major or a minor subdivision. And so it was a little, it could be argued that it was just one single family residence that is excluded. So again, I don't mind, and I think it's important that the county have a say in the process. My issue is having the county being the sole decider of this. And so, yes, we should come up with some sort of compromise where the county is notified. I can't ever see if a commissioner came and spoke at one of our meetings and 50+ residents came and opposed this strongly, us sitting up here and saying, no, we're going to go forward with this. But it sounds like you do need a little bit more of a say in some circumstances. My concern is just how it's currently written.
And I fully understand that, and I'll tell you, Senator Barnes does as well as Representative Jessup. It needs quite a bit of work. It was a spot moment that she had to get something started, and so she attached something to another local meeting.
If I could just comment, there were 50+ people attended these meetings, but there were 130 signatures on the petitions. But let me tell you the implications of this without county input. The annexation bill, the motion that was passed by the city of Rocky Mount, and I'm paraphrasing here, but this is basically what it said. They are approving that annexation, but they are not going to provide sewer or waste removal for 25 years unless requested. So I don't quite get that. So you're not going to provide it unless I request it. Well, you know I'm probably going to request it, and then somebody's going to have to pay for it. But if you could do that, go out into the county. Think of the locations that you could go out, and someone could request annexation of the properties, knowing that there is no sewer to be provided or no waste removal. And how many zones could you have out in the county that could fall under this same situation? Numerous locations. Right off the top of my head, I can think of. And I agree with Ms. Burns that we're not looking to take. This is not a power play by the county. This is simply representing the people that elected us to represent them. Those people, the say that they've had in this matter has been totally ignored by the city. They have just not listened to these people. And these people have made good points. You can go back and look at these meetings and listen to what these people have said. They've been very respectful. They spoke on many points. I just feel like the county needs some input in ever how we determine that to be. We're not looking to stifle economic growth. We're not looking to stifle residential development. As a matter of fact, if we had a piece of property, non-contiguous satellite annexation, that someone wanted to develop consistent with the community, I personally would not have any problem with that. And I don't believe any member of our board would have any problem with that. And we're certainly not going to do anything that would jeopardize the potential for our county to grow from a business and industry standpoint. That's just not even in our DNA to think about something like that. So again, this is just simply trying to get some say-so in it rather than just having it kind of forced upon us. I do say that I know pretty much everybody in this room. I know everybody up here. I met Ms. Burns first time this morning, but I requested Randy to the manager to schedule this meeting today simply because I wanted to make sure that you were provided with the facts. I hope you have heard the facts, and I appreciate your thoughtful consideration of what we're trying to accomplish here. We highly respect the town of Nashville and what you do here, and we want to continue the relationship that we have with you guys. Thank you.
Mayor, I agree with Kate's comments that when this first appeared, it was a lot of concern for us. What I'm hearing today is that you're working to try to make changes that will help provide for the towns, because that is my primary concern as the council person for Nashville, that when we, as you already know, are looking, we're very, there's not a lot of space for us left to grow. And yet we are in a pattern of forced growth on some levels because of just the Wade County, Raleigh pushing in this direction. So we definitely need some leeway in order to be able to make that happen. So my concern is just that Nashville is not going to be harmed by whatever goes before the legislature and might be passed.
Any other comments?
I think one other item too, just another concern that was in here is, and I guess this is a question as well. So when we're talking about satellite annexation, it's basically anything that's not touching city limits. So what about our ETJ? Because I think this includes our ETJ, as long as it's, you know, one lot over from touching our city, our corporate limits. I think it includes our ETJ, and I think that was one of our larger concerns too. So our ETJ, and then just outside of that. And then another item too, so we've excluded residential and multifamily use, but what if the town were to see a nice large piece of property thinking, let's purchase that, annex it in, we can develop it for town purposes, or we can save it for commercial, whatever it is, that's included in here. And so I'm hoping, and what I'm hearing is that this will be rewritten. If you can do some sort of population cap, I think that would get rid of all issues here. And I think, although it's been talked about and although it hasn't been hidden, it hasn't been known to us. And so to hear that it has been a discussion since, you know, however long to occur, I think, again, the words that you're using of having a say and things like that wouldn't really put anyone's radar up until we received this this copy. And so it's a lot of information coming for the first time to all of us. And so if we could just continue this dialogue and see what kind of compromise we can come to, I think that would alleviate our concerns.
I just want to make one final comment. I hope it's a final comment, but I'm sorry that you have only recently heard about this. This has been going on since May of last year. And we have had numerous meetings with the Rocky Mountain Council. And I mean, typically, if we have an issue in the county where 50 plus people come into the chamber, it's the headline in the paper. Not once has this received any attention in the media to speak of, and so therefore you would not know anything about it. I don't know that it took this, obviously, the recourse that we said we would do to get attention to this matter, but you know what? I'm thankful we finally got some attention to this matter. Now everybody is paying attention to it, and we'll do the right thing, but everybody knows that this has been something that's been out there for about a year, and it's been in the public eye for a long time.
An item that Ms. Burns mentioned, I would hope that the commissioners would entertain not intruding into the town's ETJ, that be like a population of ETJ that as it exists right now. And in the process of doing all this, like I said, I felt like we were kind of blindsided because we didn't know it's been going on for a while. And to keep in mind, perception weighs a whole lot. It may not have been your intent, but when it hits us, switch yourself around, put you up here, put us out there. Understand why some of us feel the way that we do feel about it. But I appreciate you taking the time to come and explain it to us today. This setting that we have here now this morning, I think it's probably 6 or 7 months too late. Could have been done 6 or 7 months earlier, but we got it done today. So just keep our ETJ in mind, and just consider the perception that your decision may make.
Well, let me make it very clear to all of you, what's been going on for quite a while is what Mr. Outlaw spelled out. Nothing to do with this bill. All we asked for was a way to get help moving forward.
Right.
The bill just showed up
I
and
understand.
the language within the last 2 weeks.
She just tagged on to it.
She just tagged on to it.
I understand.
We haven't been dealing with that, and as I said, first time I laid eyes on it and read it was about 7 to 10 days ago. I could actually give you a date, but I knew it needed a lot of work as soon as I read it, but don't think we've hid this process from anybody for a long period of time. All the timeline is what brought it forward, nothing to do with the bill itself. ETJs, I don't think we don't have any intent of doing anything with any ETJs. Those laws are written. I will caution you that there are other bills being looked at up there by other entities that are statewide bills that you probably need to pay attention to, that are along the lines of ETJs. Just nothing that Nash County is doing. It's, so just, well, it's public information. I'd pay attention to Senate Bill 675. It's one bill I'd pay attention to. They've been, supported by a group of, an industry that is generally very strong industry. So I would have trouble supporting 675, but you might want to just take a look at that. But the last thing I want you to do, Mr. Taylor, is to think that we've been dealing with this bill any longer than the last 10 days, because we have not. And before we leave, it's very important to me as chairman, because I work on many things, and we have the press here this morning. We have got to find a way that Rocky Mount and Nash County can agree on something. We depend on Rocky Mount quite a bit. A very large part of our tax base is in Rocky Mount. That keeps your tax base from the county in Nashville over. They hold a lot of cards as it relates to water and sewer and all utilities, gas, water, sewer, and electric. We have just been very fortunate in our industrial recruitment really about the last year. We've got a lot going on. Most of it depends on a working relationship with Rocky Mount. So I'm not here today in any shape, form, or fashion to say anything negative about Rocky Mount or any of their elected officials, simply because our relationship has got to be as good as it is with Nashville and every other town. And that's my number one charge, is to do that, because the county wants to grow their tax base in an industrial way as much as residential. You grow the industrial side of it, everything else takes care of itself. I mean, it really does. And we have recently been notified of something that we've been looking into and worked on very hard together with Rocky Mount, which is a mega site out in the county. It looks like we're going to be awarded one of those 5. And it won't happen without Nash County and Rocky Mount working together as we have done for many years. If there's nothing else, I'm gonna quit talking and turn it back over to Commissioner Brown.
Anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If not, we're just so appreciative for you coming, because like they've said, we were sort of in the dark and felt like something was being pulled over on us, and as a board, we strive to function with honesty and integrity, and so we just expected that from everybody else, and it just sort of shocked us. But now that we, have the facts and understand the timeline, which we didn't realize there was a timeline, we just appreciate you coming out and putting some light on the darkness that we ran into.
Well, I've kept pretty good notes on this matter since it was initiated. But I just want to close with this. I'm a lot of things, but I'm not a liar and I'm not a cheater. I'm going to be open and honest as I know to be. As a matter of fact, I'm probably too passionate and too open about a lot of things. But I am passionate about the constituents that I represent, and they know I'm passionate about it, and they look for me very often. I'm dealing with a matter now in the Sharpsburg area. As a matter of fact, it's in the Sharpsburg ETJ, and people are being referred to me for a matter dealing within that ETJ. And you know what? We're going to fix it. We're going to fix it and make something happen there to improve that situation. But I represent all the people in Nash County, but especially the people that elected me, and I thank you for what you do, and I love Nashville, and one day I'm gonna retire from the Nash County Board of Commissioners, and I'm gonna live in Nashville. So, thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Outlaw.
Again, thank you so kindly for, coming out, and, we appreciate your support of Nashville and our working together, and we hope it continues. If there are no other, comments, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.